A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. Then Jesus summoned his 12 disciples and gave them authority over unclean spirits, to cast them out, and to cure every disease and every sickness. These are the names of the 12 apostles. First, Simon, also known as Peter, and his brother Andrew, James, son of Zebedee, and his brother John, Philip and Bartholomew, Thomas and Matthew the tax collector, James, son of Alphaeus and Thaddeus, Simon the Canaanian, and Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. These 12 Jesus sent out with the following instructions. Go nowhere among the Gentiles, and enter no town of the Samaritans, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. As you go, proclaim the good news. The kingdom of heaven has come near. We're in the Gospel of Matthew and the calling of the 12. Earlier in the Gospel of Matthew, he had called 4, Simon and Andrew and James and John, the sons of Zebedee. And then later he calls Matthew the tax collector. As we listened to that and heard last week, Matthew got up and followed him immediately. And in chapter 10, we have the 12. That 12, that number is significant. Of course, it corresponds to the 12 tribes of Israel. I think that number 12 is quite significant, more so than the names. However, he does identify them here. It's also understood as we read the whole of Matthew that there were many disciples and apostles. There were many followers. But this core 12 is significant. As we heard and read in our e-news recently, our provost mentioned it's summertime. We shouldn't be carrying more than God has given to us. I think it's wonderful that Jesus, who's able to carry it all, shares the ministry with others. He does not carry this all by himself. He commissions and authorizes the 12 to do the work of the ministry. They are to stay local. You know, charity begins at home. Their ministry are supposed to stay localized first. He says, do not go to Samaria, do not go to the Gentiles, but stay to the lost tribes of Israel. I think it's also kind of reminiscent of the common saying, stay in your lane. Do this first. And we know by the end of the Gospel of Matthew that they are to reach the ends of the world. He gives the Great Commission, go ye therefore all over. But they are to do the work of the ministry that he outlines, to cure the sick, to proclaim the good news. The important ministries of preaching, healing, and liberation are given to them, no more, no less, although that is a lot. And those are signs of the kingdom. The kingdom is near when people are being healed and liberated, when lives are changed. It's also interesting that he says the name Judas Iscariot, the one who betrayed him. He gives us the end of the story right here at the beginning of the call. It reminds me of one of my favorite novelists, Toni Morrison, once said that the end is in the beginning. When she sets up telling a story, she gives you an inkling of what's going to happen throughout. And we see that here as he mentions them all. He mentions that this story is going to end in betrayal. He also mentions Simon Peter first, and remember, he denies him 3 times. So he's setting the scene of 12 who he trained, who he held near and dear, and gave them the work of the ministry. It's a reminder to someone like me who likes to carry things all by myself and do all the work, when we're to share that with others. God calls us to work in community. There's no need for us to be the Lone Ranger and feel that what God has given us, that we have to do all by ourselves. Even Jesus works with a team with 12 others. Why don't we? Amen.